Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to the OneAbility August monthly member forum. We were just saying it's kind of crazy how quickly the summer has gone by, but here we are. And we're a small but mighty group so far this morning, but hopefully a few more will trickle in as we get going. So thanks for joining us. I think we'll kick off by doing a little bit of a quick round the Zoom room introduction, maybe talk about how you're going to spend your sort of last days of summer. And then we're going to follow the same format we did with the July forum, where we're going to just really spend a bit of time kind of talking about how things are going for your organization and what's coming up for you, and kind of share our struggles and opportunities with each other. And then we will sort of see how our time is, and we have a couple questions we can dive into a bit more deeply if people want, or we can finish up early because I know people also appreciate a bit extra time. So we'll just sort of go with the flow a little bit this morning, depending on numbers. I am going to put the link for the strategic plan survey into the chat box because that is something we really need everyone to do in the next week. It closes on the 6th of September, and we need as much member input as possible. We are creating our first ever strategic plan for OneAbility. And so it's a big deal and a big opportunity for us to make sure that we're really listening to our members and creating a strategic plan that will continue to improve how we work with and serve our members. So it's your opportunity to tell us what that's about, and then we will have a forum of some sort to gather additional input, but this is sort of the first step. So please complete that before the 6th of September. So that link is there. It also is going on the newsletter again that will come out on Monday. Okay, so with that, I'm going to kick off with around the Zoom room, and maybe we'll get Zach to start us off and tell us just a quick intro, Zach, because not everyone knows each other, although it's a smaller group, so some know each other better than others, and then how you're going to kind of finish off your summer.
Okay, my name is Zach. I do most of the work on the website for OneAbility, so that's kind of my role. And for the rest of the summer, I'm going to be going on a big kayak trip. So that's my summer. Yeah.
Tell them where you're going and who you're going with.
I'm going to the deer group out by the Broken Group near Bamfield. So like a 5 or 6 day trip. Should be a good time.
Lots of a sea life, I'm sure. That'll be really cool.
Sure.
Nice. All right, Gail.
Hi, I'm Gail Hamamoto. I'm the Executive Director for BC Wheelchair Sports. So we manage wheelchair rugby, wheelchair tennis, and wheelchair athletics. I also sit on the board of the Canadian Paralympic Committee with Andrea. And I sit on the board of the International Wheelchair Rugby Federation, which I always kind of forget to mention, but I guess it's kind of relevant to this group. So rest of summer, I'm heading to Golden tomorrow with 2 other families, and we're gonna mountain bike and enjoy the outdoors. And I think if there's one silver lining to this pandemic, I have been to more places in British Columbia and enjoyed more outdoor spaces this summer than ever before, and really appreciate that if we are quarantined in a province, it's this province, because it's utterly amazing. And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to Tofino for a week, so life feels pretty good right now.
Awesome. That's great. I'm glad you're getting some breaks. I know it's been a long few months for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jade, over to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jade Werger. I'm with Sportability BC as the Sport Development Coordinator. So at Sportability, we oversee para ice hockey, bocce, and power wheelchair soccer for the province. And I'm headed up to Soyuz for in a couple weeks for some wine and time with the family. So yeah, so that'll be good. Otherwise, I've been kind of hanging around locally, and my dog's enjoying it with lots of walks and things like that. So yeah.
That's awesome. Jade, I don't know if you've met Megan and Paul yet, but they're both on the call, and I had introduced them to Ross via email a little while ago because they're with Power Hockey Canada. So I will turn it over to Megan to introduce yourself next, and they're some of our newest members with OneAbility as well, which is exciting.
Yeah, thanks. So Megan Hines, I with Power Health Canada with Paul, like Andrea said. So yeah, Jade, I think it'd be good to be able to connect offline because I think definitely some synergies between power soccer and power hockey, especially, kind of thing. But yeah, for the rest of summer, so I'm based in Toronto, so we're supposed to get some nice weather for the next couple weeks, I think. So just enjoying the weather and the sun before the snow and really cold weather comes. So taking advantage of that for the summer.
Awesome. And Power Hockey Canada, similar to you, Jade, with Sportability, are some of our grant recipients from OneAbility this year, and that's to get a power hockey program going in Victoria.
Oh, awesome. It's good to hear.
Peter.
Good morning. I'm with West Coast Reach Association, and we celebrate inclusion and diversity of ages, cultures, abilities through the performing arts. So a little bit of a different concentration, but next couple of weeks, we do live in Sydney and have 3 kayaks, and there are a lot of places out here. So we're just out whenever we can, some nice biking as well. Tonight, we actually have a Zoom session, and about 90 people have registered, and it's Breaths of Hope and Healing to help connect people who are isolated and to lift people's spirits. So that's a real focus for us today.
That's awesome. 90 people. I love it. Look forward to hearing how that goes. Make sure, Peter, that we have those in the event calendar on our website. So Zach can help you with that, just so that others can learn about what you're doing and continue to build your following of attendees. That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, Paul, over to you.
Hi there. Hi, Paul Desiree, President of Park Canada. Like Megan, I'm also in Toronto, and as she said, the weather's supposed to be not too bad for the next week or so. So, try to get outside, sit out back, just kind of maybe get down to the beach or something like that. Yeah, other than that, just take it easy.
Awesome. Thank you. And so great to have both of you on the call today. Carolyn, over to you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm Carolyn. Thank you for including me today. I'm very excited to be connecting with everyone. I'm with Power to Be, so we provide opportunities for recreation for people of all ages and all abilities. And for the rest of summer, I'm going to head out to the mountains, so either Strathcona or the Beauforts, and just enjoy before the snow comes. It's kind of prime time to be up in the Alpines, so looking forward to getting out there.
Nice. Sounds lovely. Welcome, Stacy. Good to see you again. It's been quite a while since you and I have connected.
Indeed.
So we're just doing it around the Zoom room, introducing who we are, what organization we're with, and then how we're planning to spend these sort of last days of summer.
I'm Stacy Yazanowski, and I work for Bikes, Athletics, and Rec. I'm just getting back from a long mat leave. I'm going to spend the last days of summer opening the swimming pool at UVic, hopefully. So it's going to be a bit intense, but it'll be good. And yeah, tomorrow's my birthday, so I'm going to sit on the beach and eat cake. That's the fun thing.
Awesome. I love it. Karina.
Hi, yeah, I'm Karina with Carolyn. I'm also with Power to Be. We do different types of adventure-based recreation and therapeutic opportunities in nature, and also have the pleasure of sitting as a co-chair on the stewardship committee with OneAbility. And yeah, I feel like summer's kind of dwindling, but at the same time, I've got finally visits from my brother coming in with my new little nephew, and so I'm very excited about that this weekend. And then next week taking some time off, and I want to take the kids and do like a couple maybe good full day hikes up near Wandafuka potentially. So that's some of the ideas if the weather holds out.
Awesome. I will flip it back to myself. So I think everyone knows me, but my name's Andrea Carey. I'm the kind of strategic lead coordinator for OneAbility, and was a co-founder of OneAbility 5 and a bit years ago when we started this. And I'm on the board with of the Canadian Paralympic Committee with Gail, as mentioned, and I run a consulting company called Inclusion Incorporated, working to support organizations' inclusion journeys. And the last few days of summer, it was my daughter's birthday yesterday. She's in the room, so she may pop up occasionally, but we're heading to Goldstream to go camping this afternoon for a couple days, and we're hosting a outside distancing birthday party at the bike park there. So that will be how I spend the last days of summer, and then I'll probably spend the next 2 weeks recovering.
Andrea, when you're finished, I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mentioned that we're on the peninsula, and I didn't mention that we're out a lot these days with our 5-year-old granddaughter blackberry picking. I mean, everywhere there are blackberries. This is the height of the season. So if anyone's looking for just a beautiful hour or two on the peninsula, bring a bucket.
Nice, good one. Yes, I'm always a big fan of a blackberry pie at the end of summer, so I need to make that happen.
Oh, well, Nana's doing one for her birthday.
Olivia's planning her grandma to bring one for her birthday, so I'll keep my fingers crossed so I don't have to get poked by any thorns.
Blackberries. So
okay, the joys of COVID and children at home. Anyways. Okay, so we're gonna thank you for that. That was great to have that introduction and just hear a little bit about how each of you are spending the end of your summer. So now we're going to go back and go around the Zoom room and just talk about sort of what's happening with your organization. What are some of the challenges and opportunities you're facing? If there's areas where you need help or support, and other members or OneAbility can support that, that would be great to hear about. And yeah, so we'll spend a bit of time doing that now. So who wants to kick us off? I don't want to pick on anyone, but I will. Megan, you unmuted.
There we go. Yeah, so maybe I see some new faces on the call from last time. So maybe I'll kind of start off with kind of what Power Hockey is, Power Hockey Canada, what we're trying to do, that kind of thing, and then jump into the grants that we were luckily able to get from OneAbility to support launching a program out in Victoria. And so Paul, feel free to jump in wherever if I miss anything. Yeah, so I'll just start Power Hockey in case you're not familiar. Basically, it is the rules of ice hockey, but it's played on a gym floor, and it's played by people in power wheelchairs. And so the rules, like I said, are basically ice hockey, but a few adaptations. You know, there's dangerous driving. There's no dangerous driving in ice hockey. Maybe there should be at times, kind of thing. But and then each of our players, like a lot of para sports, are classified on like a 1 to 3 scale, based on physical ability, just to try and make kind of it as even as possible on the floor. So a level 1 player would be someone who has, you know, a lot of upper body strength, can do those flip shots, stick handling, all that kind of thing. A level 3 player would be someone like myself who might have, and Paul, who have muscular dystrophy, but maybe limited upper body strength, or so hold the stick or fully attach it to their wheelchair. So that's kind of the classification, and there are a bunch of rules in terms of like level or numbers to get on the floor at a time, that kind of thing. With power hockey, similar to like power soccer, it's a bit more inclusive from the perspective of you do have that range of people with disabilities that can play. It's also a sport that can really grow with you, in the sense of, you know, when Paul and I first started playing, we were had more of the upper body strength, kind of were more of the goal scorers, that kind of thing, but have now moved more into like defensive role, and Paul moved into goalie, which I think is crazy for doing that because it's way too much pressure to do that. But yeah, so that's kind of power hockey in a nutshell. In terms of what we're trying to do with Power Hockey Canada, so we launched almost 2 years ago, and are really have 2 kind of streams that we're trying to focus on. One is getting more leagues up and running across Canada, and part of that is just awareness of what power hockey is. People don't really necessarily know the sport. They kind of automatically assume power hockey is sledge hockey, and it's very different kind of thing. So there's kind of more of that awareness, and also connecting with a lot of provincial partners to kind of see where we can partner in terms of, you know, getting leagues up and running, supporting where we can, from our perspective, providing that advice, guidance in terms of what works, how you can get leagues up and running, how, where to go for player recruitment, all that kind of thing. And then on the other side of things, it's more on the international side. So creating that more of a high performance training program for our para athletes and, preparing them for that next level of competition to go to international competitions. Like we luckily got to go to Australia in the fall last year before all the COVID craziness. And so had a team participate out there and really trying to get more of that, exposure on the international kind of world stage. So where the kind of grant comes in is we had connected with Andrea a little while ago, and she connected us with Chris Wright from Pisces. And so, we've been partnering in terms of trying to get a Power Hockey Victoria League up and running. And so that grant is really going to help us to kind of push that, excel that along. It's going to help support the startup costs of, purchasing equipment like sticks or balls or safety glasses, that kind of thing, just to try and take that, financial burden off of players and hopefully get more people kind of involved and wanting to try it out. So I think we're looking to hopefully launch it in November, kind of try it day type thing. And so obviously COVID kind of pending what things are looking like then, but that's kind of the goal to hopefully get that launched. So yeah, Paul, anything you want to add on your end?
I think that's still covered.
Awesome. So yeah, I guess in terms of kind of would be great to connect with, I think there's probably some synergies on the call, Jade, from your end, and Gail on your end, maybe to connect after in terms of how we might be able to partner to maybe get some more leagues up and running in other parts of BC or other areas as well, in terms of a lot of maybe like cross player kind of who might be interested in playing, both sports or whatever it may be. So yeah, looking forward to maybe connecting after.
2 questions, Megan. Well, maybe 1 question and a comment. So I'm hoping you can maybe tell us a little bit about how you're approaching your COVID return to play and sort of what that looks like, because that's been definitely a conversation within this group as we sort of plan for that. And each sport kind of has some different considerations they're taking in. So that would be excellent to hear. And then secondly, I was just thinking if you're looking to do a try it day in November, we might want to tie that into our annual education day, which is going to be on November 20th. And so we have the morning booked to do a virtual education day when we've got some really tremendous speakers, but we could both plug it through that as well as maybe that's an opportunity to kind of do the demo as part of that or something.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, definitely kind of the more exposure we can get, the better. And so yeah, we'd be happy to kind of connect with you on that after as well. In terms of the COVID return to play, so Paul and I kind of wear 2 hats. We're part of Power Hockey Canada, but also run the Power Hockey Toronto, our local league. And so in terms of the COVID return to play, it's very much up to the league specific or league kind of like what's happening in the city, what's the COVID situation, that kind of thing. And so from a Toronto perspective, we had a board meeting a couple weeks ago, and the earliest we would go back would probably be January, given the demographic of a lot of our players being more of the kind of complex disabilities, a lot of very weakened immune systems because of muscular dystrophy and other kind of factors like that. We are being very cautious in terms of not just going back for the sake of it, recognizing that everyone wants to go back, but really it's kind of a heightened sensitivity around making sure our players are safe, as with any sport. But I think the added complexity of the demographic. And in terms of when we do go back, some things we've been kind of throwing around some ideas around is, typically we play on a Friday night. And so it'd be like a 7 o'clock game, 8 o'clock game. So, maybe do we shorten the games instead of having 3 periods of 15 minutes, maybe it's 3 periods of 10 minutes and have more of that buffer between games. One of the benefits of power hockey and I think all para sports is really the social aspect. And so I think that will be a really tough thing to message to our players, because a lot of players will just book their, well, here we call it wheel trans, like the accessible transit. They'll come for the whole time, 7 to 9, stay around, watch the first game or play the second game, whatever the schedule may be. So I think that's going to be the toughest thing, is telling players, you have to just come for your game and leave after, just given the kind of, not wanting to kind of have a lot of crossover and kind of that social distancing, et cetera. So those are kind of a few things in mind. Also, we're playing around with the idea of providing masks to all of our players who can wear them. Some won't be able to because of medical conditions, but if you can, then, asking them to wear them for every game and trying to get, grants or kind of fundraising for that to provide it so that it's not like not being able to purchase a mask or whatever is not a barrier to being able to play. So those are a couple of things we've kind of been throwing around idea-wise. And we're hosting the Power Hockey Canada Cup in Toronto in July next summer. So we're also kind of figuring out how that's going to work because we have teams from across North America. We've also invited Australia and are looking to invite some European teams. So assuming borders and everything are all open, how does that come into play in terms of, putting on that large scale tournament and make sure everyone's safe and everything. But yeah. Paul, and anything I missed there?
I think that's I can't think of anything else we've discussed.
Very early stages right now. Given that really January is the earliest we'd go back. It's a lot of just ideas at this stage and brainstorming, and we'll definitely kind of more so in the fall kind of have more of that concrete decision making. But I think a lot of leagues across Canada are kind of similar stages and what they're kind of planning for at this point with our sport.
I don't want to speak for Gail, but she's also involved in some major international tournament hosting, so there may be an opportunity for you to.
Yeah, I actually just made a note for when I talk to say that. But if you want me to go next, Andrea, I'm happy to. So maybe I'll start with that. We also are hoping to host the Canada Cup in 2021. It was supposed to be held this summer. It's an international wheelchair rugby tournament. And typically it welcomes the top 8 teams in the world to the Richmond Olympic Oval. And so wheelchair rugby is for individuals with impairment in at least 3 limbs. So there's a lot of athletes with a spinal cord injury, sort of a cervical spinal cord injury. So there are considerations obviously for, excuse me, for their health and as you say, complexities with respect to COVID. Ironically, we finished the International Paralympic Qualification Tournament literally 3 days before the world shut down, and Andrea was part of our organizing group, and it was literally, we put everybody on the plane and everything shut down, and we kind of just held it. I mean, I know I held my breath. I emailed all the teams and said, please let me know if anybody's sick, because it's interesting, at the moment that we were hosting it, we were still in sort of, I think the world was still in sort of a bit of a denial phase, and it's going to be fine, everything's fine. People were still hugging each other, all that kind of thing. And then literally within maybe 72 hours, everything changed. So, I'd be happy to sort of chat back and forth with you, Megan. We're hoping to host in July of 2021. Like you, it's sort of a, we're gonna make the plans. We've done all the funding applications. We have money in the bank because we were supposed to do it in 2020, but it's really dependent on how the situation evolves. And then considering what modifications we might need to make to the tournament itself. Do we run only single court? Do we run with 0 spectators? And all that remains to be seen. So it would be interesting from an international sport hosting perspective to stay in communication with you. In a broader sense right now, I think the big thing for us is the province just, I'm sure all of you know, released their phase 3 guidelines for return to sport. And really, from our perspective, because our demographic is rather small, the cohort model that they have proposed, which allows for up to 50 people in a cohort for a sport, essentially would encompass almost our entire sport for wheelchair rugby. And so with the release of the new guidelines, it essentially removes most of the restrictions in terms of gathering for our sport, which many sports are very, very happy about. They've been chomping at the bit, but for us, because of our demographic, because of our duty of care, it puts us in a very interesting position to try to open sport as much as we can, but put the health and safety of our athletes first and foremost. And so we're trying to find where that line is, and we'll spend the next little while really thinking about that. Because we're multi-sport, the return to sport process for a sport like tennis is very different than wheelchair rugby, because tennis is a naturally socially distancing sport, and we've been able to sort of get some of those programs up and running because it's easier to ensure kind of health and safety regulations for that, rather than rugby where you're hitting each other and it's a team sport and you're in an enclosed space. So that's the focus for us. We literally feel like we just got our phase 2 guidelines done and approved, and beginning the implementation phase for those, and now phase 3 is upon us. So our approach has been to go slow and to be measured and reasonable in our progress, and to really observe what's happening in the broader sports system, and make sure, as I say, that our athletes are safe. We do have the additional goal of staying in alignment with our national sport organization. And because we have 3 different national sport organizations, there's challenges there as well, but we're sort of regularly in contact with the NSOs to see where they're at. As an example, 2 of our coaches in our wheelchair rugby program are on the national team as athletes. So yesterday we had a call with the national team program to say, what are you comfortable with? You know, can this national team athlete coach in a club environment? Therefore, he's going to be exposed to this bubble and he's going to be a part of that bubble. And, you know, with the countdown to Tokyo, the last thing we want to do is have our national team athletes, well, anybody, but, you know, their goal is to keep everybody safe and healthy and well working towards Tokyo. And, you know, does that mean that they can no longer be part of their club bubble? So those are some of the considerations in sport that we're dealing with right now. In the shorter term, we have our association AGM coming up in 3-4 weeks, which is, again, interesting to do it virtually and to sort out whether or not we need to put an additional online platform in for voting, because we've always had a very friendly collegial AGM where it's like our board members and a couple people and everybody's like, yep, that's all good, nod their heads and away we go. But if you do it online and people want to be able to vote for board members as an example, then we have to put different systems in place. And so that'll be an interesting process to work through as well. So, I mean, those are the biggies. We are going to be posting a position in the next month. So keep your eye out for that. We had our manager for wheelchair rugby move on to Via Sport in the spring, and we held off hiring partly due to COVID, but we'll be looking at doing that in September. So that posting will be coming as soon as I can figure out the new job description. So we're looking at it as an opportunity to kind of look at the organization as a whole and potentially move some responsibilities around and see what works best going forward. And then we'll be welcoming someone new to the organization. And that's me.
Awesome. Thank you, Gail. How about Peter? Do you want to go next?
Sure, thank you. And listening to the other speakers about contact sports, realizing that our activity is different, but even more dangerous these days than contact sports, and that's singing together, which is kind of weird to say, but because of that, of course, we have gone virtual, and we instituted a virtual free public sing-along in April, May, June that really caught fire. And it's really diversability. We even have a number of members who are nonverbal, but they certainly sing with their hearts. So we are going to be resuming that again in mid-September. And the last few years we have organized an event and show in Victoria to commemorate the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, combined with Human Rights Day and Human Solidarity Day, because they all fall within fairly close proximity. And some of our other performing groups help integrate members of the street community with the greater community, and also some with new immigrants and refugees. So that whole event combines everybody in something called We Are One, which will be virtual this year, meaning we can have some participants from much further afield, and that it will be broadcast much further afield. Our performing group, that is Diversability, now can also include people from much further afield, and that has a weekly rehearsal. And we're wondering now, now that we have this ability to include people from beyond our geographical area, how to get the word out to people who would really love either the public sing along or a weekly rehearsal. They would need to be able to uh, record either a short interview or some of the singing on their phone and send it to us, and we would edit it and combine it. But Andrea, perhaps you could help me and any others. What organizations, what email, how can we get the word out to people that these um, activities are available and are by donation? So we don't want to turn away anybody.
Yeah, certainly we could put it in the newsletter, Peter. That would be one option. We could also list, as I said, events on the website, both in the event hosting, but also we do occasionally kind of feature other special events on the website too. So we can look at some options there. I think you said it's beginning of December is the event.
Is the event, yes.
Yeah, so we have the Education Day on November 20th. We could do something there where we sort of highlight it. We're doing a couple of little video montages throughout that event this year, as well as having the speakers. And so we could look potentially, like, I don't know if they want to do a song or something that we could showcase. That would be kind of an interesting way to integrate you into the program for the day a little bit more, so we can talk about some of those options.
Thank you.
I wonder if the VAMS network could help as well. Peter, are you aware of VAMS, Vancouver Adaptive Music Society?
I'm not actually.
I don't know if it's, although it's titled Vancouver, I think it's much broader than that.
Yeah.
And they're a part of the Disability Foundation of British Columbia. So they can probably help you get the word out as well.
Could I put my email address here in chat?
Yep,
and if anybody has some ideas of content, that would be great. I'll put that now. Thank you.
Sure.
Awesome. I love it when we have these connections on these calls. It's kind of the whole purpose. So that's great. Okay, so Peter, you're going to put your, great, you've got your email in there. That's super. Any other pieces you want to share, Peter?
Sorry, my phone's ringing and making noise out of reach. I'm not going to take it, but I apologize for that.
Okay.
I think that's it. Really appreciate all that you guys are doing and the opportunity to participate. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you on and to diversify some of the activities that our members are doing and hear about them and be able to connect people. So it's fantastic. Jade, can I pick on you next?
Yep. So, yeah, very similar with what BC Wheelchair Sports is doing in terms of what's happening with us lately. So we actually just released our return to sport plans yesterday. So they're up on our website, and I was just looking and emailed Ross about sending it to Via Sport because they should probably put them on their website. Yeah, we're not in a rush when we were developing these plans. I think in the beginning, you know, with a lot of things, there's a lot of panic and haste and let's just get things done with not a lot of knowledge and things that still need to be figured out. So we were definitely taking that approach of, you know, let's work through this and, you know, what's important to have in our plans and what, you know, do we want to leave out, because we were really looking at what other organizations were doing, and it was pretty much different across the board of, you know, whether people were focusing on a provincial standpoint of, you know, follow just what your provincial sport organization has put out in place as a plan, or if they were leaving it more up to clubs with guidance. So we ended up taking more the approach of, as a provincial sport organization or disability sport organization, setting up a plan in place because of the nature of our programs and clubs. There's not a lot of clubs or programs that have a volunteer board to really help with that, or have that knowledge and time or experience to put in for that. So we really went through and wanted to hear from our members of how they were feeling, what other concerns were there that we should really consider, as well as our national sport organizations. So Bocce Canada, I was actually a part of the Bocce task force with that. So having athletes, people in health professions involved in the sport, and sport organizations having input on what each province is kind of saying or putting out, and how that applies to our sport. So we, like I said, we released our guidelines yesterday, and sent a message to our members about with phase 3 coming into place this week with the release from Via Sport. Main message in our guidelines is we're recommending everybody starts with the phase 2, which is a lot of that skill development and everything, small groups, and to really kind of have that gradual approach back into sport. So even though we've been given the green light by the provincial sport organization to move into the next phase, we're really taking that gradual, slow approach, as everybody hasn't been back to that sport environment yet. So when it comes to our sports, para ice hockey is kind of the first one that looks like we'll be going back. But at the same time, that doesn't mean every program in BC for para ice hockey will be going back at the same time. And that kind of goes across all of our sports. But kind of the nice way that it's worked out is our Surrey para ice hockey program will probably be the first one back, which is overseen by Sportability. So it'll be kind of nice that we'll be there to really roll out the first program that's returning. So that's looking like mid-September. But again, we're really, actually we put it in our guidelines, the way we worded it was that you'll be basically required to run at a minimum of 4 sessions in the phase 2 before going into phase 3, and you won't be able to go into phase 3 until our phase 3 guidelines are released. So even though our Surrey program will be back mid-September, whether our phase 3 guidelines will be out after 4 sessions or not is to be determined, because since we released our guidelines and then phase 3 came out, it was almost like, okay, no brain break for us. So we might be taking a little bit of 1, 2 to see how things go, and give our members a chance to look at the guidelines and ask any questions or anything else that comes after looking at the completion of it. So aside from those guidelines, just really preparing in terms of supplies. So with funding from OneAbility, we are focusing on supporting our Victoria Bocce program with PPE supplies, helping with some facility costs for their return to sport, because they typically rely on fundraising, which is very difficult to do during this time. So that was one of their main concerns that they had voiced to us about returning. So that'll definitely help with those guys getting back. And yeah, we're just keeping up with facility updates as well. So that's actually one thing as well we mentioned in our guidelines is, not everybody will be returning to sport at the same time. Just because these guidelines are released, it doesn't mean we expect you to go back right away. The reason we say that is because it depends on the comfort of all those participating in the program. It depends on facilities, if they're even open, or what guidelines they have in place, and whether we need to, work with them or make adjustments for individual regions or facilities. But at least, and this was something we had a good discussion with our members, kind of leading up to the last final touches of our guidelines was, a lot of our members were saying, 1, thank you, and then 2, it'll really be helpful to have a document to then show our players and then understand and know where everybody's at. Because once everyone's able to see this is kind of what things will look like, then they can really gauge the comfort level, whereas not having that information, it was hard for people to really know where they would be comfortable with. So yeah, but we have, I think one of the things I want to mention too with Megan was when you were mentioning the face masks and some people, you know, not being able to wear face masks. Like we definitely have that population within our bocce and power soccer community. So one of the things that Bocce Canada supported with too was the face shields. So, you know, obviously masks are a little bit better preventive versus a shield, but at least there's some sort of kind of line of defense or prevention there, having the shield in place. So that's something that we have less of, but are basically keeping for people that we know will need to wear the mask, or sorry, the shield instead of the mask. So that's our kind of backup option for people. But yeah, and then aside from kind of this return to sport and getting clubs ready, we've taken the time to focus on our coaches and education. So it's been a bit tricky because even though I'd like to think we were, you know, on the ball thinking that's a great idea when it's online, a lot of other people had that idea because a lot of courses are full. So I was really prompting our coaches to, once I saw there was new courses out, to get on that and register, which has been great because I think via sport and the coaching association has transferred a lot of courses over to online that they might not have done before. And then also our staff have just been, you know, kind of getting on top of things with personal development for us as well. So yeah, so we've been keeping busy, and we'll be looking at you know, the next steps, and again, just moving gradually back into sport and connecting with I know Ross has mentioned Gail too, wanting to connect with all of our DSOs and just have a chat about alignment moving into phase 3. So that's also on our to-do list there.
Awesome. Thanks, Jade. That was a great update. And I asked Zach to grab both the Via Sport guidelines and your guidelines and make sure they're linked from the OneAbility website so that people can find them easily if they're looking on the OneAbility site. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to tip it over to Stacy. I know you're kind of newly back, but it would be great to hear how things are going and what you're up to.
Well, I'm attached to Bikes as a whole, which is our recreation programs and our varsity program, and where our department is in reopening facilities. We started with our fitness weight center. That was the first facility we opened. Within the university, we have to do a site safety plan. So this is how our operations are going to be.
Stacy, it's hard to hear you. Can you just come a bit closer to your computer and try that?
Over near. Okay, so with Bikes, we're trying to open up our facilities, and we started with our fitness weight center. And the process within the university is we need permission from our department head, so our unit head. So student affairs has to say okay, but in order to get to that okay, we have to develop a site safety plan. So how are things going to flow through our building with COVID considerations? How are we going to keep staff safe? How are we going to keep patrons safe? So with that, we have to connect with the university's occupational health and safety. So step 1 is make your plan. Occupational health and safety takes a look. Then it goes up for approval. And then layered on top of that are the work safe consideration, the work safe plan that has to be done. So it's slow. So we're on the facility side where people want to come in. So some organizations maybe that you folks are involved in are looking for space to practice in. And I'm on the other side where we're like, just give us a moment. So we are going through the process to open up spaces. Our fitness weight center is open. The arena just opened, and our next stop is the pool and our climbing wall. So both of those safety plans are going through, are submitted. So I feel you guys on the return to sport. Wow. So in our spaces, we have our site safety plan, and then the varsity swim team wants to come in, so I need to review their safe sport plan. And yeah, the phase 3, it's just like, what do you mean you want 100 swimmers? We haven't even put one in the pool yet. So we're taking a very measured approach. And for me personally, my portfolio is the pool, dance programs, drop-in, and inclusion. So I am trying to get it all put together and looking for what's possible in our new normal for inclusion, because it's probably, for most everybody, it's been pushed off to the side like it often does. So I'm just trying to keep it front and center for me and look for opportunities. And it sounds like for you, Vic, the adaptive climbing program might be a go for the fall. So yeah, if there's anybody out there in Victoria that needs something or is looking for something, I'm happy to have a conversation and to see what's possible. Because with change comes the opportunity to maybe do things differently, but it does have to fit in that big safety protocol where first the facility, then any activity has to have its own safety plan. And I might like it, but our head of student affairs needs to like it to give it a green light to go. So yeah, that's us.
Nice, thank you for sharing. I think it's helpful to kind of get the facility side of things because yeah, it's I know I've been chatting with some of our members who are like, there's so many steps, and it's like, you know, appreciating that there's, you know, for everyone right now, there's a whole variety of steps and a ton of learnings as we try and navigate how we keep people safe, and lots of perspectives as we do that. Karina's asked a question in the chat box about what Vikes has done while they were closed. Did you do other, did you shift programming or just stopped altogether?
I got back on August 4th. Are you talking about are you talking about
general while COVID was happening? Did Vikes pivot to, like lots of our members pivoted to online deliveries?
From what I understand, so I came back in August, but the world shut down and we shut down with it. Everybody worked from home. There was no activities. The first place that we started to look at activities was summer camps because of its childcare need. So that was one of the first programs to open up. And then virtually there was some fitness stuff that went virtual. But it was definitely your mainstream programming that people focused on. And now we're at the point where we can start looking at, once we get the main stuff in, we can start looking at what else can be put in. So yeah, there was a stop, and then the reintroduction has been based on what's the priority in the community, and that was childcare and summer camps. And then financially we needed to open the weight room. Students are coming back on campus, we need to provide some services. And yeah, so we're at the point now where we can start conversations on the other bits.
Super, thank you. That's a great update. Thank you, Stacey. Appreciate it. And it's great to have you back. I look forward to having a one-on-one conversation, catching up a little bit. It's been a few years.
My house is quiet. The kids are at daycare. I'm loving this.
We can all appreciate these days the beauty of childcare and school. It's like, oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna flip it over to Carolyn and Karina to do a bit of a Power to Be update. So I don't know who wants to lead that.
Carolyn, do you want to share?
Sure, I can start out and then feel free to pipe in if I've missed anything, Karina. I just find it fascinating to hear things from a sports lens. So just thank you for providing those details. Things are a little different on the recreation side with Power to Be. So just need to hear what other industry leaders are doing at this time. For us, we have returned back to programs, both virtually and in person, and we started out focusing on single households, so working with families or households where everyone is in the same bubble. Opportunities that we have that we're just really grateful for is the fact that we produce our programs outside. And outside, it's pretty easy to maintain distance, and masks aren't necessarily required unless you're going within the 2 meters. So that's been really helpful, as well as having a site where we can control who comes on and off. And just knowing who has access to the area has been incredibly helpful. So yeah, we've had a blend of programs. We've mainly focused on getting back out into the water, so with canoeing and kayaking, as well as some of the hiking options that we have. And yeah, so during this time, we were back probably running, like this week, I think it was 13 programs, which is pretty exciting for single households. And yeah, our staff have also, throughout COVID, have had an opportunity to enhance training in different areas, as well as kind of getting to those side projects, that you're like, we'll do that later when we have time. And all of a sudden we had time. So that has been a total silver lining to, work on like our database system and just various projects that are really important, but we haven't created space to do so. So that has been a silver lining for sure. And I think challenges that we're facing is much like everyone else is just that unknown and then planning for the unknown. So having to look at ahead, whether it's for the rest of the year into 2021 and saying, here's our plan A through F, which is hard, but we're all being flexible and nimble as much as we can to figure out what that might look like. And so with that, I think it's just knowing where the appetite is from the community in terms of accessing programs. So, do people feel comfortable, and how do we, work with them and where they're at if they want to come out, or if it's more virtually based. Figuring those out, as well as just various platforms. That's been like a big technology piece for us is, we use a certain platform that might not be the best for everyone, and how we can work and learn different platforms to see if there's a better way that we could be servicing our community in the virtual world if we are directed to go that way again this coming fall. Anything that you want to add, Karina?
I think that's great. The only little piece I can add is we're also based in Vancouver, and it's been interesting to learn how the differences need to happen regionally. So our Vancouver programs needed to do things a little bit at a different pace, with a bit also of a different focus, and the readiness of the participants over in Vancouver, also because we don't have a site there, it made it a little bit trickier. So what we did to pivot was started doing these Catalyst for Good events where we learned about what some of the community need was in the area. And really Power to Be is about supporting people living with different challenges. So adventure, nature-based is our avenue, but also perpetuating other ways to support families is so valuable. So we helped out an organization called Backpack Buddies, and we helped to deliver food to communities in Vancouver, as well as a couple times in the north on Vancouver Island. Because we had the resources of staff and vans, it's also looking at what did we have, could we create protocols to do that? So we were also in Victoria, part of the Growing Victoria project, and helped to deliver starters for food and food boxes. So again, just really trying to nurture the community need and seeing where we could adjust. And that's helped us to decide, as Carolyn and I are constantly thinking about the planning mode, how we can make things COVID proof. So how can Power to Be still be relevant and COVID proof through these times, and doing some of these Catalyst for Good initiatives is really something that will keep what we're trying to do in supporting people, but doing it in a safe way. So we're likely going to be implementing some more strategies to think about the seasonal effects of COVID and how it influences our programs, and how we could start partnering with different organizations. So if you or partners you know of are doing different types of things where you think potentially a partnership with Power to Be might help with having great staff and volunteers, although slowly integrating back into working with our volunteers and vehicles, it is good for us to know about some emerging themes and needs so that we can also make sure that our staff know about it. And then if we can support in some of those areas, it is really valuable. And we noticed that many of our participants were benefiting from the resources that we were doing for the wider community. So it has an integrated approach that way, which has been a really good learning experience. So proud that we kept our whole staff team pretty much, and really feel the value in how adaptable they've been to doing virtual programs, helping out with fundraising, helping out with grants, looking at different ways that their skills typically would be used in a very different way. So to Carolyn's point, we've been able to get other projects happening, and also developing our team in different ways that maybe they wouldn't have the exposure to. So there's been some great silver linings that we're really excited about and proud about, but are definitely cautious moving into the next couple of years, because we're looking at the next couple of years of really having a bigger deficit financially, and our events are very much a outdoor nature event, and so being able to do those fundraising events has been a huge amount for our sustainability financially. So we're again just having to readjust. So we have a Power to Summit coming up. It's an event that we've shifted to virtual, where anyone, so if anyone's interested, it's $25 a person, four person a team, and you're just trying to get the equivalent of Mount Kilimanjaro as a team. So we did it in Victoria about a month ago, I think, a month and a half ago, and it was awesome. And it was amazing how many people got really into it. One of the OneAbility members, Sarah Black, had a team, and it was just so cool to see community being able to do something like this. So yeah, even if you don't want to join the event, even just seeing how this functions, we're all learning about these types of opportunities. Yeah, so that's pretty much the other half. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm sure you'll post the link for the Power to Summit in the chat box so folks can have a look at that, because it is a pretty cool fundraising initiative. Will also be featured in the newsletter on Monday.
Thank you, Andrea.
Brian, over to you.
Hi, it helps if I unmute. Yeah, we have basically been shut down because we don't have our own facility. Play Beyond Expectations is based out of Esquimalt Recreation Center, and our last session was March 6th, and we've had to really reassess a lot of things, but basically it's been essentially wait, and we finally got clearance just 2 days ago that there's a hope that by the end of September we can start slow with one session and just see how it goes. Multiple challenges, and on every aspect, and from the standpoint of volunteers, training, and equipment. It's been really neat. One of the board members who's really into pickleball got put out a shout out for donated, for example, donated rackets, and suddenly we have 11, which from the standpoint of all of the health and safety issues, it means that it will facilitate the program if we can have one piece of equipment for each sport, for floor hockey and basketball and pickleball, for each client for a session. And yeah, we'll be in phase 2 probably until we're sure we can be in phase 3, but which, as other speakers have indicated, that could be month to month. But it's actually encouraging to hear that we're not alone in facing significant challenges. And I love Karina's points of basically thinking outside the box, and the one-on-one stuff we've been doing has borne a lot of fruit in seeing guys develop in being able to take those skills and transfer them to things they then do at home. And so I think part of it goes back to one of our principles, is that the sports skills and the attitude that they learn learning a sport is transferable to the home or work environment. And that's part of what we're trying to create, that transition, so that the success in the gym becomes more of a success in life. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. And I'm really happy to hear that the clearance is working out, because I know that was a bit of a stressor last week when we connected. So good job on navigating some of that and figuring it all out. So, and Brian, you missed the very beginning of the session, but I was kind of connecting a few people around both sort of work they're doing and also connecting around grants. So Play Beyond Expectations was another grant recipient for the OneAbility grants this year. And Brian, as you're looking at facility space, you might want to reach out to Stacy and just connect with her about what you're doing, because as she mentioned, there's opportunities right now to do things differently. So might be an opportunity to just look at what UVic could maybe do to support your program.
That would be awesome. I'm not sure if I got Stacy's email, but I will try and connect with her. That's at UVic.
Yeah, so Stacy, do you want to just plug that into the chat box? And then you've also just asked a question, Stacy, so do you want to vocalize that? Not to try and get you to do too many things at once.
Oh.
So I also put my phone number there because I like phone calls.
Thank you.
I like old school. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about what's possible. We're going slow, but I am looking for where there's some potential. And the question I've had ever since we moved into our building 5 years ago was, we have this beautiful concourse. You walk up a ramp, you get to go all the way around the performance gym. There's some stairs on the main entrance that you can go down and up. And I keep thinking, being from the prairies where it's essential to have an indoor walking space, not so much in this weather, but I'm curious if there's a need out there once the weather starts to turn bad. Is there a need for people to have an indoor walking space or a space where you can wheel? I don't know how open the facility would be to this, but I would love to work on that, where people could book a space to come into our concourse. We can set up all the social distancing and all the COVID protocols, but people would have a space that they could drop in and get exercise in November, December, and January, and then we'll go enjoy blossoms in February.
That could be really cool.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I will find out. Okay. Anybody who's interested, just maybe if we could just let me know, and I'll start working to see what's possible there. Because it is a space. We're not going to have any competitions right now. There's hardly any practices going on. And even if there is, they're down below, you're above. We can probably still make that work. So.
Wow. Cool.
Okay, way to be creative. I love it.
Yeah, I have to move some furniture out of there because somewhere in the corner they put a whole bunch of stuff to get it out of our lobby, and it's like, well, there's got to be another place for that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big facility.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I love it. Okay, so your contact's there. So if folks want to reach out and have a connection with you, then they can do that. And yeah, very good idea. Okay, I'm going to kind of open it up if anyone has anything else they'd like to share. And I'm going to plug the survey again as a reminder so that you grab that link and do it right after we get off the call today.
There's just a couple things that popped up listening to everybody chat. One thing I forgot to mention is we did our junior sport camp virtually this month. And we did it with some partners. So I see Jean nodding her head because they were involved as well. So it was pretty cute. I didn't want to be the executive director on the screen. So I kind of like peered through my partner's window to look at the screen. But all the little children's faces on the screen, we sent out sport boxes ahead of time. So all the kids got, I think it was in excess of $300 worth of sport gear delivered to their homes so that they could do the things in their yard. I think they did a bit of pre-communication around what kind of space did the kids have access to so they could tailor the activity to what the kids were able to do at home or in their yards. And we had all our guest kind of coaches and athletes come and share their sports with the kids and do some activities that they could do. And one of the things we always do at the end of our camps are camper awards. And so usually we gather all the kids around and they get a certificate, and it's like just fun little awards. And so one of the things I really enjoyed was just watching the awards kind of pop up on the screen. They did a little PowerPoint, and then going to the kids' faces and see them light up in terms of like their acknowledgement and their recognition. So that was kind of a neat thing to see. And it also gave our staff a real sense of like, I think it lifted their spirits as well, because we've all kind of been having to take a step back and not getting that direct interaction with the people that we're here to serve. And so it was just neat to see staff be really excited and happy about connecting to the kids. So that's one thing that I wanted to share, and we hope to be able to do some more of that over the coming months, not sort of as an extended camp format, but either biweekly or monthly to try and continue that community interaction with the kids. And then also to highlight the facility issues that we're having too, especially since a lot of our programs work out of schools, and the schools aren't guaranteeing any access to gyms in the fall because they have to find more space in their facility, having user groups in terms of bringing COVID. And so that's going to be a real barrier for us in terms of getting programs running. And if anybody has any creative solutions, would love to hear it. And then the Power to Be, your Power to Summit really reminded me that we're also trying to figure out a virtual option. We have an event called Push for Impact, which is a wheelchair rugby sort of mini tournament where people from the community come and they raise money and they get to play wheelchair rugby. And that typically happens in February, but the likelihood of us being able to do that in light of COVID is not strong. And so we're looking at, what are our virtual options? How can we continue to engage the community? And love to sort of bounce ideas off of each other. And also thought, gee, I wonder if we could like put a team in Power to Summit and then do some cross kind of participation in each other's activities. So some stuff that just popped up listening to all of your great comments and thoughts.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted, but clearly I did not. Anyone else have anything else they'd like to share? Thanks for that, Gail. No. Okay. I realized I failed to do a territory acknowledgement at this beginning of the session, so I want to apologize for that. I'm usually pretty good about that, but I was excited to just see so many familiar faces and dive right in. So I do want to acknowledge the territories of the Coast Salish people and the Esquimalt and Songhees nations, where I've been really grateful to feel safe and welcome during these COVID times. So I know many of you are in different locations, both in BC and across the country. And so just taking a moment to appreciate the stewards of the lands that we get to be on, especially during this challenging time of our lives. So, okay, so if no one else has anything else, then I think maybe what we'll do is we'll just wrap up early and give you that 20 minutes to go do the strategic plan survey so that we get some great feedback from each of you, because I know you have a ton to contribute to how we move forward. Sound good? So the link's in the chat box. Please do that. And thank you so much for all being here and for sharing. And if you've got other things you want to share, shoot them to us and we'll get them on the newsletter or the website. And we'll see you.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. Very much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Have a great weekend.
Have a good one. Thanks.